Effortlessness. Doesn't that sound great? What is effortlessness? Well, I know one version of it. The version that the intellect will perceive when it hears about effortlessness is something like all of the difficulty of moving through the world, of moving through life, the challenges, the struggles become less for me. So I move through the world more effortlessly. I move through the world unencumbered. But that's not actually what I'm pointing to when I talk about effortlessness. It's very different than that in a couple of ways. One way is that it doesn't involve a self effortlessly moving through a world. And the other thing that I want to say about it is that it's far more effortless than you can imagine through that paradigm. Because with that paradigm, you're still assuming something that's actually far heavier than you realize. The mere appearance of a self, the energetic experience of a self, is far heavier than you realize until it's not there anymore, until the illusion drops. Then you do start to enter the world of effortlessness. It's not immediate. It may come and go for a while. There can still be energetic resistance patterns that will work themselves out. It's a very conditions-based process at this point. But as you clarify the implications of no self, non-resistance, and you clarify the deeper meaning of non-dual, which is the non-dual reality of where radiant appearances meet empty nature in a seamless way, in a more and more seamless way. This amazing experience. It's not an experience, though. It's a direct knowing, a direct experiencing, a direct involvement, perhaps, starts to clarify itself, and that is truly effortless. The whole universe is effortless. No effort has ever been exerted anywhere. There's no resistance anywhere. There's no place to hide and no reason to hide, and no agent that wants to hide, that needs to hide. But more importantly, in your direct experience, in your direct there's no word for this, being, I could say. It's not yours is the problem. It's just what's happening. But in that absolute directness, absolute involvement, engagement, immersion, submersion, extinction, there's this wondrous knowing that even the conventional, the relative world, begins to feel quite effortless. Things still get done, bills still get paid, conversations happen, the body goes through its changes, all in the relative. But even all of that becomes deeply effortless, profoundly effortless. It's very strange in one sense, because nothing in the paradigms of being a human being, or even in the paradigms of the way the world functions, can make this make sense. Only things that are very obscure, perhaps, like quantum field theory. I was reading about Paul Dirac last night, who was essentially the inventor, or the one who elucidated quantum field theory. And this is quite how it feels. There is no actuality anywhere. There's only potentiality, excitations in some infinite field. But it has that experience of empty cohesiveness. empty self-responsiveness, something appearing out of nothing. This is what Paul Dirac elucidated, that matter and antimatter appear simultaneously out of absolute nothingness and disappear just as quickly. That happens all the time. And that pretty much summarizes the experience of zero distance, effortless, radiant clarity. There's just no words for this, but the important point is understanding this is not helpful. You can't want your way into this. You can't imagine your way into this. Imagining how this will be for you and what it'll do for you is the obstruction, or is one of the obstructions. So hearing this, knowing this, even resonating with it, liking it, doesn't get you there. You have to go directly to the obstructions, the fixations, and be willing to directly address them, especially the ones you don't want to address. Because it can be fun to hear about this and even taste it when you listen. But you got to go back into that shadow. You got to go back into the cave. Can't leave anything behind. You got to look where you don't want to look and just keep doing that until you realize there's no more need to create more shadow, no more need to create more hiding. And then you see all the mechanisms of hiding, all the mechanisms of identity. Right about the time, the entire paradigm of identity is just dissolved. There's nothing there, and there never was. Then this is naturally revealed. But even then, there's nothing there to say, hey, okay, now it's my turn to experience that freedom, peace, effortlessness. And if there is, that's not it. It's a mental version. So see what wants that mental version. What's trying to escape from what's here right now. What doesn't think this moment's okay? Why? Where is that belief formulated? Where is it arising? What is it based on? So you only find this here. And you find effortlessness, you realize effortlessness through willingness. Willingness to feel and experience everything that's going to come through. And the more you let go, the more that will come through. And the mind will try to grasp, try to hold on, rationalize, conclude. It'll try to land. But none of that will help you here. You have to keep letting go. Now, the letting go is a sort of antidote to the identity with the conceptual self, the time-based self, the physical self. That's what the letting go is in reference to. But there's also this sort of switchover to where that letting go is also a sort of immersion, an involvement in the vivid, zero-distance sense fields. And this can't be overlooked. If it is, you'll be lost in awareness. In a reified version of awareness, in a constructed version of awareness. You've got to go to the complete immersion and oblivion that comes with non-dual clarity in the sense fields, specifically the visual field. Until there's nothing left to turn back to. There's nowhere left to retreat. And in a different way, that's impossible to talk about. I use the word intimacy sometimes. But this sweet spot between endless letting go, falling away, free fall, and this almost rock solid emptiness in the sense fields. That's the key. It's where life meets death, where everything meets nothing, inside meets outside. And from here, there's nothing to do, and there's no one to do it. But actions are taken. Doing happens. And rest happens. Change happens. And nothing ever moves. Everything is endlessly still. So, quite paradoxical. But as you, let's say, become comfortable in this sweet spot, and when I say you now, I mean conventionally. There's no other way to talk about it. So, as the comfort level in this sweet spot deepens, you settle in to this perfect balance of nothing and everything, luminosity and emptiness. That's where the effortlessness really starts to show itself. It's a very strange place in one sense because nothing's happening. But relatively speaking, a lot can get done, actually. A surprising amount. But it doesn't matter. A little bit, a lot. A lot of meditation, sitting, quietude. A lot of activity. Doesn't really matter. These are just the excitations in the energy field, let's say, in the potential field. There can be more excitations, less excitations. The magnitude of the excitations can change. But is anything really happening? Not so much. Just a field. But this field is not in time or space. So that's the route to effortlessness. Just put that in the back of your pocket there. Don't think about it too much. But you might start to notice it at some point.